Why do people develop negative thinking and what is the way out of it? Today I'll be talking on this topic. I'm Dr. Praveen Tripathi. I'm a psychiatrist and sexual disorder specialist. We are talking about the negative thinking. Now, the research says that our minds tend to interpret the events happening around us in a particular fashion. And if that interpretation is wrong, sometimes we come up with wrong conclusions, and that give rise to negative thoughts. Let me explain it. Let me take an example. Say there is a college student, say he's 22 years old, and he goes to the library of his college and goes to a table and sits down on the chair. Now, while sitting down, he saw another student on another table, and this guy smiled. But the other guy did not smile back. This guy sat down, and now a thought came into his mind that probably that person was ignoring me. Then the second thought comes, probably he was ignoring me because he does not like me. The third thought comes, nobody in this college likes me. The fourth thought comes, nobody in this world likes me. The fifth thought comes, I will grow old alone and I will die alone, and nobody will come to even my funeral. Now, this is how the negative thoughts multiply. And why is it happening? Because the brain interpreted that situation of the colleague not smiling back in such a manner. Let's take another example. Say there is a housewife, a 35-year-old housewife, and she made a sumptuous dinner for her family one fine Sunday. Now, she made 4 dishes. After the dinner, everybody praised her, but one single person from the family pointed out that in one of the vegetables, the salt was a bit less than what it should have been. So a single family member pointed out that one particular vegetable was kind of not as much salty as it should have been. And then everybody goes back. Now, the mind of this female discounts all the other compliments that were given to her, but sticks to that one comment where she was probably criticized for a particular vegetable. And the mind goes like this. She thinks that I messed up that particular vegetable. I messed up that particular dish. I messed up the dinner. Then the third thought comes, I ruined the Sunday for everybody. The next thought comes, I cannot give anything to my family. And the last thought comes that I am a completely useless person. Now again, the mind of this person is picking upon one single comment of salt being lesser in one of the dishes and discounting everything else which was nice told or said to her. And again, her mind is interpreting the situation in not a very healthy manner. Now, these thoughts, when they multiply, they have other consequences too. That college student who is sitting in the library, after he's getting all these thoughts, he suddenly starts feeling energyless. It has an impact on the body, on the behavior. He also does not feel motivated enough to study now. He does not feel like studying. Also, because all these thoughts are constantly going around in the mind, he is not able to concentrate. Even if he opens the book, he is not able to concentrate. And say in the evening he comes back home and tries to remember what he read, he is not able to recall it. He starts thinking that his memory is also getting disturbed. So these thoughts, they have far-reaching consequences. So how can we manage these thoughts? Now, there are hypotheses which say that there are neurotransmitters in the brain, particularly the 3 neurotransmitters, the serotonin, norepinephrine and dopamine. And if the levels of these neurotransmitters go down, person becomes more susceptible to development of these negative thoughts. So the management has to be done at both levels. It is quite similar to what happens in physical illnesses. For example, say a person comes to you and he says that he is feeling lethargic, he is feeling fatigued all the time, tired all the time. You get the blood work done and you find that vitamin D deficiency is there. What do? The first thing that you do is you fix that deficiency. You provide him vitamin D capsules. At the same time, you tell him that do certain changes in your life. Start running, start exercising, do yoga maybe. So like in the case of that vitamin D deficient person, we provided him with vitamin D as well as gave him certain things, told him certain things that he can do by himself to improve his condition. Similarly, in this person who is having negative thoughts, probably we have to do both the things. We have to fix the neurochemical disturbances. If we think that he is lacking in one of those, we have to give him medications that would boost up the levels of the neurotransmitters. At the same time, we tell him to do certain things that he can do by himself. And what are these things? So these negative thoughts, when we want to remove them, the first step is to identify them. We have to tell the person, we have to tell him the techniques to identify the negative thoughts as they start cropping up in the mind. Now, research says that it is much difficult to identify the negative thoughts, and comparatively it is easier to identify the negative mood. So when all those negative thoughts were going on in the mind of that boy, he also started feeling sad or depressed. So you tell that guy, you tell that student that, see, whenever you feel sad or depressed, you kind of have to rewind your mind. You have to start thinking, before I started feeling this way, what was going on in my mind? Go back in time, go back 10 minutes or 15 minutes back in time and see what really happened. So for example, this student who was feeling sad, when he starts thinking what happened in last 15-20 minutes, his mind will tell him that I came into the library, I sat down, I smiled at my colleague, he did not smile back, and then I started having thoughts that probably he does not like me, and probably that nobody likes me. So this is how you identify the particular thought or the chain of thought that is troubling you. This is the first step. In the second step, we have to do something which is called as challenging the negative thoughts. Now what happened was, this guy who was having all these thoughts, he accepted those thoughts without any kind of investigations. We have to tell the person that you cannot just accept the thoughts as they come in your mind. You have to ask for the evidence. So the first question that a person who is having negative thoughts, the first question that he should ask from himself is, what is the proof of this thought? So for example, taking the example of that college kid, when he starts having thought that nobody likes me, he has to ask himself, why am I thinking like this? Is there any evidence that corroborates this thought? The mind will tell the answer, yes, there's an evidence. I sat down on the chair and the guy on the next table did not smile at me. This is the evidence. So you are not telling your mind exactly that because somebody did not smile at me, I am thinking that people hate me. Right? And then you ask the second question to your mind, how strong is this evidence? Can we really take it at its face value? And what is the percentage that I can give to this evidence? How strong is this evidence? So probably the answer will come as it is like 20% or like 30% likely that we can, on the basis of this single event, say that people hate me. So now your mind, instead of thinking it, instead of taking it as a fact, is doubting that probably it is only 20 to 30% strong enough to call it a fact. The second question that you have to ask yourself is, can there be an alternative explanation? So the fact that the student smiled and the student on the next table did not smile back, one explanation is that everybody hates this one. Can there be some alternative explanation for these events? And the mind will tell you the answer that yes, there can be multiple other explanations. Like what? One explanation could be the other student did not notice this student. The second explanation could be he was busy in, say, studying. The third explanation could be he was probably lost in his own thoughts and he did not give enough attention to this first student. So when you ask your mind about the alternative explanations, your mind starts giving you logical reasons. So say this student came to the library, sat down, smiled, did not get a smile back, and the thought came to the mind that he probably did not notice me. Would that have led to all those chain of thoughts that happened at the first place? Probably no. So this is the second question. Is there an alternative explanation? The third question that you ask your mind is, if I think in the original way, how does that impact me? And the answer is, if I think that people do not like me on the basis of this single event, that impacts me adversely. I start feeling depressed. I start feeling less energetic. I lose the motivation to study. And finally, you ask yourself, how would I have reacted if I had accepted one of the alternative explanations? And the answer is, if when that student did not smile back at me, if my mind had told me that probably he could not see me or probably he was busy in his own work, my mind would not have reacted in this manner. I might just have shrugged it off that okay, he's busy, no big deal. And lastly, you ask yourself, what should I do now? And the answer would be, just do not let any thought come in your mind. Identify, evaluate, and only then reach a conclusion. So when you do this exercise, you start feeling better, because something that you had accepted as a fact did not really appear to be that strong to be called a fact. And this is how we deal with negative thoughts. We don't just accept them and start believing in them, but we evaluate them and see if they really are substantial or not. So I hope that I was able to put some points across here, and you may use these techniques to make your life slightly better. Thank you.